So what I'm going to do in this video is write an HTML5 website. I'm going to code this from scratch. It's just going to be a very simple website that we just use HTML for at the moment. And what I've decided to make this website about is this building here. This is our new Computer and Information Sciences building at Northumbria University. I just thought it might be fun to do a site about this. It could really be about anything at this point. The editor that I'm going to be writing my HTML in here is called Sublime Text. That's just the editor that I choose to use when I'm writing code. If you want to try this one out, you can download it from the Sublime Text website and you can use it. You can download it on a trial basis without having to pay for it. But many other editors are available. You might, if you're on Windows, just choose to use something like Notepad++, or perhaps you'll be trying something like PHP Storm to write your website. The file I'm starting with here is called index.html. I've already created and opened that file. This is a typical file name that you use when you're creating websites. It's typically when you visit a website, the default page that gets loaded would be called index. To open that on my computer in the browser, I can just go to the to Finder here, to the File menu, and I could just double click on that, and it opens it in the browser. It's just blank at the moment because I've got nothing in here just yet. Now the thing that you should always start with when you're writing an HTML document is this. It's the doc type declaration. I'm going to say doc type HTML here, and it's in these angle brackets, and you've got this exclamation mark right here. If we look on the W3 Schools website here, it tells you about this doc type declaration. It says here that the doc type declaration must be the very first thing in your HTML document before the HTML tag. And it says the doc type declaration is not an HTML tag. That's why it's got this funny exclamation mark right here. What it's doing is it's an instruction to the web browser about what version of HTML the page is written in. For HTML5, which is the latest version of HTML, we simply write HTML. That's all we need to put. If we were using a previous version of HTML, which has some slight differences, we need to tell the browser about it. So if we were using, say, HTML 4.01 strict, our doc type might look would look just like this. The next tag that we have should be HTML. This is the root tag of the HTML document. What we can do is just close that tag. This creates a block here. So everything between these open and close tags is going to be our HTML document. You see that I'm closing a tag by having that slash right there. I'm going to put some stuff inside these tags now. And what's a nice and typical thing to do here is just use the tab key to indent your HTML here, to indent your code. And what I'm going to start off with is a head tag, which I can close. Let's just get those aligned. And beneath that, a body tag there that I can close as well. Just save that. There's nothing here yet to show in the browser, but what would be nice at this point is just to talk about this idea of there being a document root there to talk about what I mean. Think of our HTML document as being a tree. Think of this diagram as representing a tree where we've got the branches coming out here. So the HTML tag is our root here of this tree structure, and then we have two branches here, the head and the body, and from each of these there will be further sub-branches that come out, and these branches themselves in turn will have branches. So if we go back to Sublime Text, we see we've got HTML here as being our root branch. We've got the head, we've got the body. Within the head, what we should always have is a title for our page. So we use the title tag, and I'm going to call the page Northumbria University CIS building, just like that, and then we can close the tag here, close it just like that. I'm going to keep this in line here. What you could do is indent this as a block, but that's not really necessary when we've just got this small amount of text here between these tags. So typically, for things like the title here, and typically when there's only small amounts of text, just keep stuff in line there, keep stuff neat and readable. So if we save that, we go back to the browser, and if I reload the page, we see that the page remains blank, and that's because there's nothing in the body. The body tells us what should be here, but what we might notice is that up here in the tag, we've got the title now. You can just see it there. If I leave the mouse over it, you can see actually the pop-up there says Northumbria University CIS building. Stuff that's in the head of the HTML does not appear here on the main part of the page. This is the body, but the head controls the more sort of contextual information, including things like the title up there at the top. The thing that we're going to put in our head here is a meta tag, one where we'll say meta and then charset equals, and in quotes here we're going to write UTF-8. This is an unusual tag because it's not one that we need to actually close. We don't do something like that. It's unnecessary. In earlier versions of HTML, we might just put a close thing just there, but we don't need to in HTML5. All this meta tag is doing is telling the browser what character set, what text encoding we're going to be using in this website. UTF-8 is a good default one to use. If we go to the W3 Schools website again, we can read about it here. It just says the charset attribute specifies the character encoding for the HTML document, and we've got some differences here. We've got some different character sets that could be used. My advice is not to worry about this too much at the moment, but always have that there to avoid the situation where the text that you think you've written in your website just comes up in someone's browser as complete gibberish. So let's now go to the body tag of the website. The body tag, as I said, is everything that's in the body will appear here on the main part of the site, and a good place to start perhaps here with the body is to think about a heading. For headings, we always give them a number, so we can have heading 1 here. If we close that, and as the heading for this website, I might just write for now CIS building, because that's what the website is about. If I save that and then reload it here, we'll see that that appears within the body here of our web page. Now heading 1 is the main heading that you'd have on a website. You can have heading 2. Make sure you close that properly. Looking exactly the same here, but it's coded differently. And you can have right down to a heading 6 there. And okay, that's gone quite a lot smaller. The heading 6 is displaying in this browser as being smaller than the heading 1 and the heading 2. What's important to point out here is that H1 to H6 is not about the size of the heading there. We're not using it to try and style the headings as such. We need to think about our tree again. We need to think about the hierarchy of headings here. The heading 1 for the website is going to be a main heading. So for our main heading for the website, we should always have the heading 1 there. Some people say that we should only have one heading 1 on any website. I think that helps with some accessibility tools. If we had subheadings for this heading 1, we would say next heading 2, and whatever we want to put in there, let's just say subheading, and we'd close that. A heading 2 should always be, associated with a heading 1. We wouldn't go heading 1, heading 3, say, like that. We should always have a heading 2. A heading 3 could follow a heading 2. Let's get rid of that for now. But what we might want beneath our heading 1 is a paragraph of text. We use the P tag here, standing for paragraph, to put text in. And, it doesn't really matter at what point what we write in here, but, we might say something like the CIS building is at Northumbria University, if I can spell. It was newly built in 2018 and opened in, I can't remember, in April, let's say April 2018. Okay, if we save that, we can reload the page, and we see that our paragraph of text appears right there. Now, what we should be having here in the body of our document is we just need to be thinking a bit more about the structure of our page. If I carried on writing, if I carried on putting in headings and paragraphs and images and so on in here, this would very quickly become a bit of a mess. If we think about our tree here, this body tag would have many kind of little branches going off it. It would have this H1 branch going off. It would have this paragraph branch going off. Anything else that I put down beneath there would be other branches off here. Let's just try and keep it organized a bit more. So above my heading 1 tag, let's just think about having a main tag there, and we can close that there. We'll indent everything that's within the main tag, and there, what we get here is this main branch going off from our body. The main tag is an example in HTML5 of what we call a semantic tag. I think if we save that and reload it, nothing changes. But these just help us with structuring our website. Remember that HTML is all about structuring, not styling, but structuring your websites. Other semantic tags that we might use typically might be a header tag up here, and we might get a footer tag down there. Header and footer are just typical terms that we use, and these have been enshrined now as semantic tags in HTML5 for the top bit and the bottom bit of a website. Inside the header tag, in fact, we might want our title for the page there. Might not. We might want something else up there. In the footer tag, typically we might have something about, say, who wrote the website, or we might have a little menu here that tells us about the privacy policy, or so on. But in the footer, just for now, let's just write down here, this site was written in 2018. You might even put like a copyright 2018 tag down there if you care about the copyright of your website. So I've saved that. Let's reload it for now. What we can see here is we've got our double headings here. the top one is in the header section of the website. This one is in the main section of the website. It makes absolutely no difference to how these things are styled. We're just thinking about the structure here. And then at the bottom, we've got this footer here, and we've said this site was written in 2018. You see that this site, this site works here. It works just fine in the browser. It doesn't look great, but it's working. But already a couple of mistakes have crept in. So I've contradicted myself already. So we've got two headings that have the same text, but more than that, we've got two heading ones in here, and I've said, it's best not to do that. So because we want our heading one right up here in the header, let's actually make this heading 2, because this heading 2 is a subheading for the main heading for the website. Down here, I've written some text here in the footer, but I just haven't put it within paragraph text. So, these tags are not absolutely essential for your site to work in your browser, but just because it works in your browser does not mean that it will work in everybody's browser. It does not mean it will render in the way you expect it in everybody's browser, and it does not mean it will work within screen readers as well. And later on, when we come to actually style these websites, we'll see the importance of this hierarchy and using all these tags in a nice, consistent way. Let's just think about the headings here. We don't want the same heading twice. Let's just say this heading 2 here is an introduction section. And beneath that, we might want a bit more. So let's say we have another heading 2, because this is a subheading for the main part of the page, but it's not a subheading for this introduction section. We're not writing parts of the introduction here. And this might be about the building. Close that. And we can say something like, the building has 4 floors, something like that. We can close the paragraph tag. In fact, in front of that, I'm gonna say no. Let's just keep it like that for now. We can save that. We can reload it in the browser, and here we've got our heading 1 up there in our header section. We've got heading 2 here, which is a subheading for this main heading here. It just says introduction. We've got another subheading here for our main heading that says about the building. And we've got a paragraph associated with this section, a paragraph associated with that section, and a footer down here. Now, I know we're just thinking about the structure of pages at the moment. I'm just finding this a little bit confusing, seeing the footer text right beneath this text here. So in my footer, what I'm going to do, just for now, or maybe we'll keep it, is put a line in. I can use this HR tag here. This is another special tag that we really don't need to close. If I put that HR tag there, it stands for horizontal rule, reload it, and we just get this line across the page there. And I'm going to do the same thing actually, just in my header. Maybe we won't keep these later, but we'll have them there for now. Now I've called these sections, but thinking about our tree here for the document, all of these are just branches from the main section. What would be really good here is to use semantic tags to segment these a bit more, to create some individual sub-branches. And so a typical tag that we might use here is the section tag. So if we open it there, we can close it there and just indent everything that's in there. And beneath that, we can have another section. We can close that. Let's just indent it all nicely. And there we can see we've just got a couple of separate branches now. We can think about these sections separately. And a section will typically have, a heading in there, a paragraph in there as well. We can save that, we can reload it. We see it makes absolutely no difference here to what we're seeing, but conceptually our document has just more branches in here, so we're improving the structure. A section can have subsections. Let's make one now. So this is within this section block. We've got the heading 2, we've got the paragraph, and then I'm going to have a subsection beneath it. I've said the building has 4 floors. So let's just talk about each floor. We can have a heading here. I'm going to use heading 3 now because this is a subsection of this section. We've got the heading 2 there, so we're going to use the heading 3 here. And we can start with ground floor and close that. Let's just put in the other sections, just align stuff nicely here. Just copying and pasting the code there. Copy and paste is, by the way, a really good way of introducing errors into your documents. Just always be careful when you're copying and pasting stuff, that you're keeping an eye on what's going on. So we've got the ground floor, we've got the first floor, we've got the second floor. This is just the way the building's numbered. And we've got the third floor, which is, the fourth out of these. And each of these is a heading 3 because each of these are a subsection of the heading 2. In each of these sections, we ought to have a bit more text. So we can have a paragraph. Oops, excuse me. We can have a paragraph in each of these. And in that paragraph, let's just write something short for now, so the ground floor has a cafe and social area plus 3 labs. The first floor has, how many labs have we got there? 3 maybe? Has 3 labs and a meeting room. The second floor, I can't remember how many labs there are, but let's say 3, has 3 labs and a meeting room. And the third floor, it's a bit different, isn't it? The third floor has 1 lab and staff offices. Has 1 lab, a meeting room and staff offices. Okay, let's save that. We can reload it in our browser, and there we are. We've got our website. It's not looking beautiful at all. We've not done anything about styling it, but what we've done is a lot of structuring here of our page. So just as a little aside at the moment, to go back to this HR tag, it's worth mentioning, if we go to the W3 Schools website again here, we see a description of the HR tag, and we see that in previous versions of HTML, it represented this horizontal rule that I said. So you get this, you get this line, you get this horizontal rule there in your browser. Now, of course, that's a form of styling, and what they've tried to do with HTML5 is just really move away from this idea that HTML is got anything to do with the style. HTML5 is all about the structure, and so the website here, the W3 Schools website here, makes this very important point. In HTML5, the HR tag defines a thematic break. And what that means really is that the HR tag is something that ought to be and could in principle be interpreted in different ways by a browser. It is not necessarily there just to draw that line to break stuff up. You could imagine some browser or some tool sort of really kind of rethinking what HR exactly means there. I just thought I'd mention that because it really does sort of drive home and bring up whatever this idea about HTML5 being specifically here about structuring rather than styling your website. Right, let's move on. I thought it would be interesting here in the introduction. We say the CIS building is at Northumbria University. Now here's a good chance to put in a link here. Shall we put in a link to Northumbria University? To put in a link, we can use this tag A, and in the A tag we can close that as well. And in the A tag we can write this. We just write href equals, and then in quotes we write the URL for the site that we want to link to. We want to link to the main site for Northumbria University, so if we just copy that address there, paste it in just there, that's just a line wrap that's happened there. Just do that, yeah. And so this is the link here to the site. Everything that appears within this A tag, so after the A tag here, the opening part of it is closed there, and the closure tag here, these words Northumbria University will then appear as a link on our webpage linking to that. So if we just save that, reload it in our browser, yeah, we get this link here, Northumbria University, and we can click on it and go to that website. Let's just go back. Something else that might be nice to do now is to think about adding, let's say we'll add some images here to some of the subsections of our website. So for images are obviously not something we insert directly into this document. Images are separate files that we'll need to have on our web server. We can just have it in our file system for this demo here. Images are just files we can load up into our web page.